see, I just sort of know I'm going to have to push myself to the limit. And winning at age 49 also, again, made me the unknown. When I got diagnosed with cancer, I realized, hey, I can really beat this as well, because winning my 12th Molokai at 49 was something special. And so when I crossed that line, I was hyperventilating. If I'd fallen off, I'd drowned. So that's how far I pushed my body.
Really?
Yeah.
So you were like right on the limit.
On the limit. I mean, I couldn't even breathe. You'll see videos of me finishing. I couldn't even push the button of my garment to stop the timing. Yeah, but that taught me how far you can push your body. And that made me realize how you can push your body. I mean, like when I was on my deathbed lying there, when the doctor tells you, hey, you've got one day in front of my Herman, my brother, and my wife, I said, no way, I'm not ready to go, you know. And that kind of fight that you have, you learn from racing.
Hey everybody, on the show with me today is the myth, the man, the legend, Oscar Chalupsky. Oscar has made a life of being resilient and of believing in oneself. And in this episode, we discuss exactly that. Is resilience the ability to return to your normal state as quickly as possible? Or is it the ability to endure and withstand? How does one just believe in themselves? It's something that is very popular to say, but how does one go about achieving that? We talk about the importance of consistency. And consistency never looks impressive in the moment, but only retrospectively. We discuss his victories, his 12 famous victories at the famous Molokai surf ski race, as well as his ongoing approach to his cancer. This is an episode for somebody who is interested in pushing the limits and pushing the boundaries, because Oscar is 100% a real life living example of what it means to eke out every little bit of potential in your body and in your mind. Please like, share, subscribe, and enjoy. Oscar Chalupsky, welcome to the Expect Performance podcast.
Thank you very much, Clint. Pleasure being here in beautiful Durban and nice and warm, which is very different to Cape Town.
Yeah, Durban winter is the best. That's when we show off our weather, hey?
100%.
You've spent a lot of time in Durban, and most recently, well done on your Supersport Champs. Supersport shootout win, hey?
Yeah,
Jeepers,
thank
what
you.
What an achievement.
Yeah, it's a strange thing because golf's one of those sports where, I mean, I knew, I obviously, like anything in life with me, I put my mind to it. But golf, you never know. It's one of those things. When you have a guy like Rory McIlroy shooting 80, then you know it's not an easy game. I mean, not everybody wins all the time. And so last time I actually tied and got counted out first. And this year I said, okay, I'm going to try and win. And I practiced and everything. But I won. I nearly lost it, actually, because on the 14th hole, I hit my shot to about 6 or 8 foot, putted it, went to like 6 inches. And then and the guy said, oh, you got that. I went to putt it, missed it, and then didn't, and then picked it up. And then they said, no, you have to take a 6. So I had to take a 3 over when I actually made a 3. That's why it became so close. Sure.
Okay, and then you had to buckle down
and
coming down the
No,
stretch.
I didn't even know. And then I said, oh, well, you have to make a par on that 18th, which I did. I chipped too close and then sunk the putt. But it was pressure, and then the guy was the 21 handicap was leading going into the last hole, and he gets 2 shots, 21 handicap, he gets 2 shots in the last hole, and he made like an 8. So I was just 1 by 1. It shouldn't have been that close, but you live and learn, you know. Don't take any butts.
Yeah, exactly. You do live and learn. And something that was a theme in your book, I thoroughly enjoyed your book that I've made my way through in prep for our discussion. And something that comes back again and again is resilience. So let me start with this. Resilience, is it the ability to return to your mean state of being, so returning to your norm as quickly as possible, or is it the ability to endure something over time?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough question because, I mean, I've just had in my sport. Obviously, had to have a lot of resilience in more ways than one because, but my mind has always been to win and to be my best at all times, no matter what I do. So I'm trying to work out what that would constitute, because the bottom line is that from a young age, 14, I've been always wanting to win, no matter what it is. I mean, I'm talking squash, ping pong, snooker, anything. And I've never lost that sort of will to win and the will to achieve, which makes you so resilient. I think that's what happens. That's what makes you resilient, is if you keep on wanting to perform. Every time I'm playing golf, when I finish playing golf today, I'll work out tonight where I made mistakes and carry on. So that's what makes me resilient. I always want to do better, and I'm always trying to achieve, no matter what I'm doing, no matter what.
Yeah. I've thought a lot about resilience as a result, and I think it's probably both.
Yeah.
I think it's your ability to get back to normal and to bounce back as quickly as possible. You spoke about bouncing back a lot in your book, from different results and controversies on the water and all kinds of things. Molokai obviously was a very dominant theme in your book, but then also the ability to endure over a period of time, be it with respect to health, be it with respect to golf, be it with respect to business, surf skiing, all of that. So I think it's probably both, the way that I think about it at least. Why do you think you had such a will to win? Like, have you ever thought why that is such the case?
Yeah, that is the $1 million question. And I'm always trying to work out how come I just keep on wanting to perform. I never say, like a lot of people say, oh, I'm too old, I'm going to do this. Where I never do. I get to the golf course and I say, I want to shoot low rounds. And just nothing has stopped. It hasn't stopped since I was 14 years old. I mean, there's not a stage in my life, and in business as well. Every time I want to be the best. And I'm trying to work out, and I've never got the exact answer. I mean, the bottom line is, my father came out of Germany, and he was one of those guys that if you're going to do something, do it properly or don't do it at all. And so that is what I did a lot from that young age. I said, no, I'm going to do my best at all times. That's why when I got cancer, I just went, okay, I've got 6 months to live. But what I've done in my 56 years, most people don't do in 3 lifetimes. So I felt satisfied. So I think that carpe diem, seizing every day, I've done that. I really do seize every single day.
The diagnosis, did that change the way that you viewed life, or did it reaffirm the way that you were already living?
It's 100% the second thing. It just didn't even worry me. And number one, I thought 6 months, okay, let me try and get things to ready. But I never ever thought I'd only last 6 months. So, and again, and that's why I tell people when I'm doing talks and everything is, listen, you've got to live every day, because you never know when you get that phone call. So that's why I really try and perform and do everything and seize opportunities all the time.
So the diagnosis reaffirmed the way that you were already living your life.
Correct,
and that was affirmation to, like you said, living in the moment, being goal-focused and driven, and really prioritizing the things that you enjoy, friends, family. Being active is obviously a major part of that.
Yeah, I think life is about balance, but the funny thing is your balance swings and changes all the time. When you're young, you've got no kids, you can do whatever you like. But at the end of the day, if you do too much of something is going to suffer. So that's why I've really had quite a good balance. That's why I'm still married together with my wife for 43 years and married for about 37 or 38 years, I can't remember, but many years, because you've got to make those sacrifices to make sure that one part of your life doesn't dominate the other. So even though I was always an amateur sportsman, I never did sport professionally. I raced against professional people, but then you've got to balance the time with your family, with your kids and your wife, and then do your sport and then business. So it's a lot of things you have to balance. And then as soon as I had the diagnosis, then you've got to say, okay, the thing that I've always been doing is educating myself on health, on anything, always educating myself. And then when I got the second diagnosis about 2 years ago, when they said, no, you've got no chance, nothing's working, then I went on a 21-day fast. And the reason why I knew that would work is because I educated myself, learnt, studied it, and realized, okay, this is what you've got to do. So that's the sacrifice I made. No food, just water and black tea and black coffee for 21 days. And I made the cancer just about go away. You know?
Really?
Yeah. So 21 days, and you lose lots of weight, and I was in hospital. And then again, every single time I've been on my death. So then I was sort of given my last rites. That was 2 years ago. And then last year in September, I had the same thing, the relapse. And they gave me like a day. And 2 days. And I said, you guys are be crazy. I'm fine. I'm looking at my watch and it says, training ready, it was saying 100% because I wasn't. Then again, I have to do things differently. I fast and I walk and I couldn't even stand up, you know. So those are the kind of things that you do. And that's all because I'm always trying to learn to be better. And doing that is just by really educating yourself, reading. I'm always reading or listening to audiobooks all the time to learn from other people that have been down the same route.
Yeah. Was that 21-day fast, was that met with a degree of circumspection by the doctors? Did they discourage you from doing something like that, or were they quite encouraging?
No, the first time when I first got the cancer in 2019, going to 2020, they didn't like it. But I was still trying to fast. They wouldn't let me do it. This time, no problem. Because they didn't even know. When I was in the hospital.
Gotcha.
When I'm in hospital, the people know when I arrive in hospital, even now, because I've never stopped having chemo. They arrive and they say, do you want anything? I said, nothing. Drinking my sparkling water and black tea and black coffee. And after about a week and a half, bone broth. Because you need the micronutrients. That's the only thing you need, you know. So, and I took my cancer, it's called Kappa light chains, at about 300 or 400, you're on stage 4. I was at 1,470.
Wow.
I had the red devil, which is which a lot of ladies have, and they hate it, and people have bad reaction. But I never had a reaction at all, because I had red devil every day for 5 days. I had pace, I had everything, but nothing worked until I did the fast.
Sure. And then that brought those numbers down?
From 1,470 to 111, and then I stopped fasting, still on medicines and things like that, and then it went up again. And then I went on new medicines, came down, and then and now I'm on a new medicine, which the teclistamab is the medicine I was getting in Portugal, was 600,000 a month.
Jeepers.
And I was getting it free there. And then it stopped working. And I was on my deathbed in September. And then I couldn't even fly because my platelets were at like 2. They're going to be 40 before you can fly. So it took me 4 weeks of, again, fasting, exercising, trying to get... I just wanted to get to South Africa because I didn't want to die in Portugal. I mean, I know a lot more people in South Africa than Portugal for my funeral. So, so that's why that was my first goal, just to get to South Africa. And then I started my new treatment, which would have cost me in Portugal, I would have had to pay 600,000 a month. It cost 240,000 in South Africa, called teclistamab, and I started that on the 30th of December last year. And now I'm on that, and that's working pretty well.
Is it?
Yeah, so I have an injection every week, and then now they say, no, I can have it every second week, so there's improvement. So I've never been off chemo or anything, ever. I'm always on it. I've been on it for 5 years, where a lot of people, so they say I'm partial remission. I say, what the hell is that? It's like partially pregnant. I mean, it doesn't make sense because I'm still on the medicine. I still have to pay that exorbitant money every month. But they say my level is down to like 0.1, where it was 1,470. So
wow.
Yeah, so it has. So I'm just hanging in there. So as I say, one of my goals is to live long enough so they find a cure. Because My cancer is bone marrow cancer, multiple myeloma, and it always finds a way of getting around the treatments. That's why it's called multiple myeloma. So it just keeps on. You give it. So I've been on like 7 different treatments because as it works, some of it works for
figures
a month,
it out,
4 months, and then I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I'm always, I'm always wary because I know they can come back any day. And then I normally go to my deathbed and then fight back. And then they find another. So I've got another medicine that's lined up when this one stops working.
Okay.
And then that's it. And then there's a thing called CAR T, which costs between 20 and 40 million rand.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a very expensive
Jeepers.
cancer I've got.
That's what struck me in your book as well, Oscar, is the willingness to venture into the unknown, both from a sport in the sporting arena as well as in the business arena, and then similarly now with life, I'd imagine you'd have to have quite a healthy relationship with the unknown. Tell me about how you deal with venturing forward into the unknown with such willingness over the course of your life.
You see, I think to me it's not really unknown because what I've done is in my whole life is prepared. I'm one of those people. Like, perfect example, my brother is just as good as talented as me as paddling, but every time I went to Hawaii and he went with me, he would come second to me. And sometimes he would beat me. But when he went on his own and I didn't go, he would still come second. Because his preparation was never as good as me. You know, I prepare and I make sure and I do things completely different. Like, I read books about French Foreign Legion or Ernest Shackleton, and I pull out of that book pearls of wisdom that people wouldn't even know. And I said, hey, this guy only ate meat for 1.5 years, Ernest Shackleton. And the French Foreign Legion marched for 4 days, 42 kilometers with no water and food. So your body can do that. So that's how I learned. When I raced in Hawaii at the age of 49, I had to do things. I couldn't do one pull-up.
Yeah.
And the guys I'm racing against can do 1,000 a day. That's what they do. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. How does a 49-year-old win a race like that? And the guy who came second was Clint Robinson, Olympic gold medalist, 12 years younger, much stronger, doesn't drink, doesn't have fun like me, you know. And it's, again, because I had done it, I raced fasted, so I paddled that whole 3.5 hours with no water and no food.
Really?
3.5 hours, no water, no food.
That was your 12th
win at age 49. So, and again, you have to do difference. And I trained in Durban right here, and I would train with like a full wetsuit on. And I put 10 kilogram of weight in my boat. So people, when I was training with them, they thought, they're beating Oscar. Meantime, I was dying, but again, I prepared myself. And that's what you say. It's not really unknown because I'm always trying to prepare for the unexpected. And that's what I did in my 12th win. I mean, I was so well prepared. I mean, I won by 10 seconds from Clint Robinson, who was on a three-peat, you know. So again, so the unknown to me is it's not really unknown. It's just something that I educate myself all the time to make sure that I know what the unknown is, if that makes any sense. Because you see, I just sort of know I'm going to have to push myself to the limit. And winning at age 49 also, again, made me the unknown. When I got diagnosed with cancer, I realized, hey, I can really beat this as well, because winning my 12th Molokai at 49 was something special. And so when I crossed that line, I was hyperventilating. If I'd fallen off, I'd drowned. So that's how far I pushed my body.
Really? So you were like right on the limit.
On the limit. I mean, I couldn't even breathe. You'll see videos of me finishing. I couldn't even push the button of my Garmin to stop the timing. But that taught me how far you can push your body. And that made me realize how you can push your body. I mean, like when I was on my deathbed lying there, when the doctor tells you, hey, you've got 1 day in front of my Herman, my brother, and my wife, I said, no way, I'm not ready to go, you know. And that kind of fight that you have, you learn from racing. And now I not coach, but every day I get people, with cancer, can you send me a video? Can you have a chat with me? And that happens every single day.
Really, yeah.
But it doesn't, my wife said, no, it doesn't pull you down, because, can you imagine the whole day, every day you get somebody saying, I've got cancer, what can you do? And a lot of the people that I give advice to die as well. And the thing is, and it's so hard to say, okay, now the doctors have given up, you must go and fast. And they just, and I tell the doctors, hey, why don't you tell people to fast? And they say, no, people haven't got your mental toughness. I said, no way, but it's your last chance, surely. Give them the option. They don't give them the option, because the problem with cancer and with life is you can't make money. If you can't make money, it's not good for anybody. It's good for the patient. And that's why I say fasting is the best thing out. You don't have any washing to do. You don't have to buy food. You don't even use toilet paper. It's very good for 21 days. But nobody makes money, so nobody promotes it. So it's very few and far between doctors that will advise you to fast. But it is the best thing, It's funny, in my book I mentioned it, as you know, is that I had a friend that was a prop at school, and for 40 years he's been trying to lose weight, this diet and that diet and that diet. And then he read about this fasting, and now he looks like a wing, and it's taken him 40 years to realize, because he fasts. There's this black and white. You're either eating or you're not eating. And whether it's right food or wrong food makes no difference. If you fast for 2 or 3 days, and nowadays I might generally eat one meal a day, or only eat socially. So I'll go 2 or 3 days anyway, and then I watch my training readiness on my watch to see if it's low. Then I won't have any alcohol. I'll only drink alcohol when it gets up to above 80. Otherwise I don't have alcohol either. So there's a few sacrifices you have to make, but I still try and enjoy life. So, and I know quickly, if I fast, don't have alcohol, within a day I'm up to 80, 90, on my training readiness. So again, all these things I use to monitor myself. So that's why when I had that cancer, and they gave me one day, and you wake up in the morning and think, I'm still here, what's going on? It's an amazing thing. And then every day, and then I'm looking at my watch, it says 100%. Every single day was 100%, and the doctor said, I'm dying tomorrow. I said, no, my watch tells me I'm 100%. So that's you see, so that's my sort of lifestyle, is that I always look on the bright side. I'm always looking on the positive, I never, ever delve into the negative in anything, no matter how bad it is.
Yeah. You touched on something there about suffering, or sacrifice, rather. You had to sacrifice and wait a little bit longer before you have X, Y, or Z. There's a wonderful quote which says, it doesn't make any sense continuing wanting something if you're not willing to do what it takes to get it. If you don't want to live the lifestyle, release yourself of the desire. To crave the result but not the process is to guarantee disappointment. So that's from James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Have you read Atomic Habits?
Of course, yeah.
So that's from James Clear. And I just felt, especially in today's society with social media, and it's so much easier to compare yourself to other people when you've got no background as to what their life is about, that people aren't willing and wanting to make the sacrifices. They want the trophy, they don't want the journey.
100%, and I see it with young kids. I see it with my children. They just. My son was a very good golfer, but he wanted instant gratification. He didn't realize you have to put the time in. And I'm working with one golfer, and I said to him, "How much are you trading?" He said, 5 hours. I said, "You've got to be kidding." I said, "At my age, I'm doing 5 hours. That's a joke. You're a pro golfer." And I just Googled, and again, this is where you can learn from other people, that Tiger Woods, when he was at school, was practicing 10 hours a day. And when he became a pro, 13 hours a day. And I told the guy, I said, you want to be a number one golfer in the world, you must do 14 hours then. And people don't realize the sacrifices you have to make. And that's the story about life. Even sacrificing food sometimes to get the goal of living, So, and when I'm paddling, obviously, then when I'm trying to train, I do things completely different and put lots of effort in. And people don't understand that even if you start with one push-up every week and the next week do 2, it's like compound interest. You just keep getting better and better and better in everything you do. School work, varsity work. If you just do a little bit extra, you will get better than the next person.
Yeah. What sacrifices did you make over the course of your sporting career that people probably don't know about?
Yeah, so again, when I come up to big races, I stop drinking for a whole month before, and then I'll go fasting. I'll lose 20 kilos before I do. So a lot of things that you don't realize, that you're just doing these small little things like losing 20 kilos, you're suddenly getting better, and then training unbelievably hard and simulating. And something that I do, which most people don't do, and I'm sitting in a gym, which is a perfect example, is that I go and do technique 80% of the time and hard efforts and things like that 20% of the time. So I do more technique than anybody. So training for the Molokai, I used to train in Barney Dam. It's like 800 meters round for a 52-kilometer race. Always doing technique. And I've been doing it for 40 years.
The dam in Maneshkim?
Yep.
That was where you'd paddle. That was your prep.
That's my prep. And if the wind blew, then I would do a downwind. But otherwise, my prep is in Barney Dam doing 500-meter technique sessions. I do 1.5 hour, 2 hour technique. Because the only way I could beat young people is having a better technique. And that's why I can give any golf pro a lot of help, because I know golf is all about technique and repeating it all the time, perfectly all the time. That's why you can never do enough technique.
Yeah.
And that's what I've done my whole life, And technique doesn't mean just the technique of paddling, and then it's the technique of resting, the technique of eating, hydration, everything you've got to keep practicing all the time.
And do it consistently.
Consistently.
There is a wonderful quote as well. Consistency never looks impressive in the moment, but only retrospectively.
Correct.
Watching somebody in the gym one time isn't impressive, but retrospectively, when they've gone to the gym 5 times a week for 5 years, then all of a sudden that looks impressive.
Exactly. And you can see that happening all the time. There's people. And you see golfers, and you wonder why they can't just win all the time, And some do. I mean, Tiger Woods was special because he put in the work.
Yeah.
I mean, he's actually not as natural as some of the golfers around, but he put in the work, harder work than everybody else. And I think, again, you've got to put hard work and clever work. There's no, as I say, my old saying is, practice makes
perfect.
No, that's wrong. Practice makes permanent.
So
that is something that I'm always preaching. Make sure when you're going to practice, do it right. That's why when I went from 24 to scratch in golf, I had a pro all the time, teaching me the right way. Because there's no use practicing rubbish, because then you'll end up rubbish.
Yes.
Practice makes perfect, yes. It doesn't actually. It just makes it permanent, So that's something that's very different in my brain compared to everybody else. Practice, and that's why I say, if you're going to do gym, get a gym instructor to do it properly. Otherwise, you don't actually achieve.
Yeah, all of these little journeys that you've been on, the challenges that you spoke in the book about, the Tuesday golf school at Royal Durban, and declaring publicly that you were going to go from a 24, I think, to a scratch in 12 months. That requires a significant amount of self-belief. That's just one example of many over the course of your life.
Yeah.
How does one? It's such an easy thing to say, and you've lived it, so you know what it means to believe in yourself. But there'll be a lot of people listening, thinking to themselves, "Well, I can't do that. I don't have that kind of self-belief. Oscar does, not me." So, where do you think self-belief comes from, and what would you say to somebody who's struggling with that lack of self-belief?
Yeah, I get asked that question often because, they always say, no, surely when you've got skin cancer and you're half dead, surely you have got a bad thought in your mind, And I said, no, I'm always thinking positively. And the way to think more positively is to do the work before, because you have to do the work. And there's no shortcuts about this. You have to do the work. But I think people can become positive if you do. Like you read the book, and this triggers a little bit of a subconscious, oh, I can feel positive, and you can listen to other podcasts, listen to people. You can teach yourself to be positive, but you've got to be willing, and you've got to be willing to sacrifice. I mean, and that's important part of it, is that I think, I've got 2 kids. One is very positive and one is negative. In the same house. I mean, how does that work? And my daughter will look at the positive side. My son will only look at the negative side. Where I'll only find positive in every negative situation, you know. But I think you can teach yourself and read and educate yourself to follow people that are positive, and then you see what they do. I mean, the end of the day is you've got to have the belief. And the only way you can get the belief is put in the work. So when I went from 24 to scratch, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning at Royal Durban. It's dark, you know.
Yeah.
So all I could do, there was always the floodlight on the putting green and the bunker. So I spent my life chipping and putting around that before it got light, and then I'd hit balls when it got light. Again, how's that saying? You're waking up at 4, getting to work at 8, working till 5, back on the golf course again. So you do. So my self-belief was right there, you know. And again, remember, you're not going to achieve everything that you set your mind to, but you've got to keep on thinking about it. And obviously, you've read the book, the trying to be a Natal rugby player. And again, I've always set ridiculously high goals and then worked out a way to get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. People don't realize that. Again, I always ask this question, what is the most important part of building a house? And they will say the foundations, but it's not. It's the plan. And that's why I'm very good. I mean, I'll write down things and write down my goals and then work a plan to achieve them. Everything I do.
Yeah. I think self-belief is almost like it's a reflection on your previous achievements or your previous behavior and the evidence that you've created for your life. So if, for example, everything that you've set your mind to, you've worked hard and you've committed 100% to that, you have that as evidence when you decide to then say, okay, I'm going to get to a 0 handicap from 24. Even though you haven't necessarily tried to achieve that yet, you've got all this other evidence from your previous experiences. Okay, each time I've decided to do something and created a plan, it's worked a lot of the time. At the very least, if it hasn't worked, it's got pretty damn close to where I wanted to end up.
Exactly.
You know, so you've got this whole diary of evidence to suggest that you're a competent person, that when you set your mind to something that you then go and do that. And that starts, like exactly what you said, it starts with one push-up, or, you know, making one healthy meal instead of choosing to get Mr. Delivery.
Exactly.
You know, it always starts with that one first thing. The first time you went to the putting green at 4 o'clock in the morning, not the 350th time that you went. It started from the first time. You know?
Yes, that is. I think that's what life is all about, and a lot of people forget that. Is that so many people put off things. I'll do it tomorrow. Well, I'm one of those people. No matter what it is, if I have to phone somebody, I'll phone it now. And my wife gets so mad. She's driving. She's like, I'm driving. And I said, have you remembered to do this? And she said, I'll do it later. I said, no, you'll do it now. You see, I'm one of those people that do it now. If there's problems, do it now. And that's been my life as well, is that I've always put in the work and expected the results. But again, one of those things that people don't do is they never start, you know. It's the easiest way to give up is never starting.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens. I mean, if I say I want to go to gym and I'll set my goal, I say we could start going to gym, like the World Surf Ski Championships here in October in Durban. So now I've set my goal. Once I get over this cough and everything, I'll start training, and then I'll work out exactly what I'm going to do from now until October. Work it all out, you know, and then say, this is how much I want to train, this is what I do. And again, in that preparation, things will change. Of course, I'm going to get sick again or something like that, and you just know. But you must realize nothing is perfect in life, and you have a lot of obstacles, and we have a lot of problems. And probably my problems are worse than most people's problems, but they always make small problems into big problems. They have a cold, they won't go to work. You know, think, oh no, I think I must stay at home. Well, I'm not one of those people. And I think the only way you'll keep me away from the work or golf is I'm in the hospital and I'm not allowed out, you know. And even then I try and break out.
And on top of what you have to deal with on the health front, you're still more active than the average healthy person, in inverted commas. So it's a testament to you and your work ethic. And I think that I read it in Mark Manson's book, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Have you read that one?
I haven't actually read that one.
So it's
maybe I have.
It's an bright orange cover.
Yes, yeah. But I do a lot of audiobooks. I basically do audiobooks and read. Both.
So do I.
Yeah, that's
so do
So
I get through books better that way because I can
yes.
drive and listen, and then So I'm with you on that. But he says action breeds motivation, not the other way around.
Yeah.
So people wait to have an emotional response to something to then, okay, now I'm going to take action because I feel motivated or energized or happy or whatever. But that's just a temporary emotion. It doesn't last very long.
No.
So if we're always responding and acting in accordance to our emotions, we're not going to get very far. Because all the results that happen over time of what we want happen over 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years of doing the same thing consistently. And our emotions never remain consistent for 2 years. There's all kinds of things that throw us out of kilter, and we have different responses emotionally. Yet, if you learn to take action irrespective of your emotions, that is when you make tremendous progress. Let's say on the health front, as an example, in the gym. That's what gets you to 12 times being Molokai surf ski champion. That's all of those sort of things. So I think it's important for people to notice that. Not to ignore your emotions, but to act in spite of your emotions if you've set out a plan.
Yeah, 100%. I think there are, you get not depressed, but you think, I'm training too hard. You must, how many times have I gone out there when I think, I'm actually a bit tired today? And then I do my fastest time. So, because your emotion says that and your brain's telling you that you're weak, but it's actually your body's still super strong and actually does better. But again, the more you do, the better you get. And it changes your emotion, as I say, at the time. You come to gym, you feel good. Everybody talks about, I feel, that was like a shot of adrenaline, coming to the gym. And then they go down and they eat a hamburger and they get tired and rubbish food and they go backwards again. Where I'm always thinking, okay, now, like I had a big meal yesterday, so now I won't eat today, So that's one of those things. So I know for everything you do, you've got to counteract it as well, So like I had drinking too much last night, so today I haven't had anything, So water is my thing today, So again, and when you're doing something like fasting, then it makes your emotion think, oh, look how powerful I am. I can actually keep down the hunger pains, which you don't actually get once you're in ketosis, by the way.
Yeah, it's such a fascinating thing that making progress and being willing to sacrifice and ignoring your emotions. And I think it is those sessions, when you're out on the water and you don't feel great, or you get to the gym and you're not motivated and you feel a bit funky, but then you persevere, and it's almost like you get this energy that you didn't think that you had that day. Correct. And then those end up being the best training sessions, because the only reason somebody becomes a hero is because they have to overcome adversity in some way. That's what makes a hero by definition. And then if you simplify that down to heroic actions, like performing a workout or a paddle or whatever the case might be, doing so when you felt like you had some adversity to overcome and yet you still did it anyway. Those are the workouts that count, and those are the ones, in terms of the psyche, that start to change the way that people believe in themselves and think about themselves. It changes the self-image tremendously over time.
Yeah, and perfect case in point, when I went to the Olympics, and I don't expect to lose, and then you go to the Olympics and you come absolutely nowhere, and then I've coined that phrase, in adversity there's opportunity. You've got to learn from your mistakes. And I came nowhere there, and that's where I started. That was in 1992, and that's when I said, no way I'm going to have anybody else coaching me. I'm going to coach myself. I'm going to work out my own techniques, because it's gut feel. I know myself better than anybody else. And from that loss in the Olympics, I beat the guy who won the gold medal. Happened to be Clint Robinson, who I beat in 2012 at Molokai. So I learned from mistakes, and that's something what people don't do. I think that's the most important. So I'll always tell people, in adversity is opportunity. You've got to sit down when you, like, that's why when I finish a golf game, tonight I'll go through every single shot and say, okay, sure, I made a mistake there. I should have done this and this and this and this. And then next day I'm going to be better, because subconscious mind is the most powerfulest. And that's why I'm trying to work with these golfers to get, it's got to be subconscious. When you make a mistake, go and practice what the mistake you made and fix it. And then come back, and then eventually your subconscious just builds up a big history of lessons that you've learned.
Yeah. Okay, so now is that because you love the process more than you love the end goal? Like, do you get really turned on by the process? Okay, now I'm going to sit down and figure out how can I make this round better? How can I play golf better from today? Like, is that because you love the process of, okay, let's troubleshoot, let's figure this thing out?
Exactly what I do. And again, I was working with this golfer, and every time he made I told him, I said, every time you make a drop or double bogey, I said, what I want you to do, and remember this, in adversity is opportunity. So I want you to say and I want you to write it down. That's the most important. You have to write down, if you're going to set a goal, just write it down. Why did you make a mistake? Write it down, and then go and practice that. As I say, practice the right thing, how to eliminate that error. But again, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of time. And again, people just don't seem to want it. I mean, there's nothing. I promise you right now, if I went to a professional golf, I wanted to get good golf again, I would practice 10 hours a day. And these guys are pros are painting 5 hours a day. I mean, there's something wrong. So and I just love. I mean, I could easy play 10 hours of golf every day.
So what about practicing the right thing 5 hours a day versus practicing the wrong thing 10 hours a day?
They're always the person doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But you can do, I want you to do the right thing for 10 hours.
For 10 hours a day. Got you.
You see, so understand all my practice at work. That's why I don't even need to go to a driving range. I just can hit in the net and I feel exactly what I'm doing. So that's the same thing. When I'm training in my surf ski and I'm doing technique, I'm always doing technique. Even though I'm doing it every day, 85% is technique. Going at a pace. And then again, my end goal is when I start my session, I find it difficult to paddle at 12. When I finish my session, I'm paddling at 16 easily because my technique has just improved in 1 hour.
Yeah.
Understand? And the same thing, I'm sure, in gym. I mean, I know your technique gets better and you get better. And then, you know, the thing that I've always done is I've always finished off on a high. Then you take that high to the next level, and the next level, it's always a finishing on a high as opposed to finishing on a low. You know, if people train too hard and they do the last 100 and they're slower. I like to go faster and faster and faster and faster. And that's what you want to do in life. So you finish the session paddling at 16 kilometers an hour and you think, okay, and you build on it the next time, you know, and that's small little gains like that.
Yeah, that's training to be better rather than training to be worse.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. One of the stories that really stood out to me in the book was about a certain gentleman, Grant Kenny, and you set the world record first, the youngest to be junior and senior Ironman, and then only for that record to be broken shortly after that by the Australian. And the lengths that you went to match up so that you could go toe to toe with him is quite mind-boggling when you think of the context and the era that you were in, where there was no social media, there was no way to reach out, and you heard about people via the grapevine or
Correct.
via a newspaper.
Yes.
There was no internet, read up, find an email, contact the guy now. I mean, you can connect with anybody in the world now to set up something. So that aided you for 5 years, if I'm not
Correct.
mistaken.
5 years, yeah.
And then the lengths that you went to get to Hawaii, to then try and meet up with him, to challenge yourself against him unsuccessfully in the first attempt, but then that led you to staying there for 6 months, and then obviously the Molokai bug bit.
Yeah, because I mean, the interesting story about that, I mean, I used, and again, I set my goal to beat this guy because he basically broke my record. And he was on South African TV, and I wasn't even on TV because we are Mickey Mouse Sport. And that drive, and that's what you got to tell people, that you got to use the anger to make you better, not to make it worse. And I mean, this guy didn't even know who I was, but I hated him because he was getting, and he still is one of the most famous people in Australia. So again, you learn something from that. He had won this race 4 years in a row, and I'd made all these sacrifices, sleeping on the floor, but he'd won it 4 years in a row. So when I started that race, and again, this is what you've got to do in life, I knew I had to listen to him and watch him, not listen to him, watch him and follow him for the first hour and a half to see what he was doing. So I learned from him because I knew he'd won this race. And once I could see the other island, off I went, So again, life's about learning from your arch rivals that you think you mustn't, It's like, and the same thing in business, same thing. You learn from the people before you, and that's what I've done all my life as well. I mean, I learned from Tony Scott and the races from Port Elizabeth, East London. Those races were hard, You learn from other people. You mustn't just think they are the opposition. They can teach you.
Yeah. So that is a driving factor, as a motivating factor for you to get to Hawaii, to sacrifice what you sacrificed first to get to the original race, which ended up being a small insignificant thing, and Grant Kenny wasn't scheduled to race. No. And then you made a call to stick around there for 6 months, and just so that you could match up against Grant. Now, my question is, when you are motivated and you're letting something like that drive you, is that a motivation to prove something to yourself, or is it to prove something to other people? Is it internal or external?
I think it's both.
Yeah.
Because the bottom line is, I mean, it's up to you to push yourself, And then you always want affirmation from people outside to say, hey, this guy's done well, you can do this. But I mean, again, it starts with you. You want to do it. You don't care who. But then once you've done it, you realize that the rest of the world actually appreciates it. So that's why you see in my social media, I really post lots of positive things about cancer, and I'm very open about it, And then I think that's something that I've always done. And the big thing is, again, the lesson I learned doing Molokai. I was actually studying to be an accountant, and I was on a rugby bursar in Natal University when I had to make a decision. And so many people make decisions based on finances, and that decision was made on passion. I wanted to beat this guy. My passion is to beat him, and then the finances come afterwards. So I think you've got to make decisions more about what you're passionate about, not what's going to fill your wallet.
Yeah, not chasing the money.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you've changed your mind on recently? This is one of my favorite questions that I like to ask people.
My mind gets changed basically by what happens with my cancer. That's the only time. Otherwise, I'll never change my mind. I mean, I'll set my goal and do it, and then suddenly I'm on my deathbed, So now my thing is to get to my son's wedding in July, and everybody's saying you can't be sick again when you go there, so that's why I'm on antibiotics and everything like that, trying to keep myself fit, and that's the thing. So, and when the cancer suddenly comes back, you've got to that's the only time you change your mind, and that changes it for you. But otherwise, I'm not one of those people that changes their mind. I'm not one of those people that will say, I'm gonna go to the Supersport shootout and I'm gonna not do well because I've drunk too much and I haven't practiced enough. I'm just not one of those people, I'm one of those people that always, once I set my mind to it, that's it, no matter what I do, So now I'm looking, should I go and do the Breda River Marathon, which is a race that I did last year when I was half dead. I didn't realize I was half dead. So that's the kind of thing. So I'll work it out. Should I do it? I get a lot of resistance from my wife. How can you think you're going to be fit and everything? She keeps the sort of the reality check going all the time, because she says, no, you can't do that. I can't do this. But I like it, I'm doing it. And that's what I set my mind at, So business, setting my mind at business. and set my mind at sport and at golf and at family. And again, family is important, so I'll be at the wedding and having fun there for a while. So again, I don't really change my mind.
Yeah. What advice would you give to the 18-year-old version of yourself? If you could say one thing, knowing what you know.
I think the most important thing is if you're going to do anything, do it properly. That's number one. And number two, really concentrate on doing it. Practice makes permanent. So always practice the right way. So always get advice from people older than you and listen to and learn from people before you that have achieved.
Yeah.
Because it's a shortcut. I mean, we didn't have that. There weren't that many autobiographies out there when we were growing up,
Exactly.
And now there's everything. You can listen to podcasts like this and you learn, that's what that guy did, that's what he did. So education is the most important thing to me. Because if you keep on educating, you get cleverer. You get older, but you get wiser.
Yeah, and then therefore more efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah. You get to the end faster without having to use so much energy.
100%.
Which was obviously the case in your 12th victory there in Molokai. Okay, so let's flip the script then. What about your inner youth? So what advice do you think 18-year-old Oscar would give to you now?
Don't paddle, play golf. There's a lot more money in golf. Because that's actually when I think about it, I was very close. But I know the drive that I had if I was in any sport. In fact, that's what happened. In every sport I do, I achieve. Because I just do a little bit more than everybody else. And I'm so driven that I know if my father was a golfer, I would have been a proper golfer. Yeah. I would have been practicing 12, 13 hours a day. I'm one of those people. So even now, I will go, as soon as I get over this, I'll train 3 or 4 or 5 hours a day, every day. It's in my nature, I just love exercising, training, and doing it. So that's the only thing. If I played golf, I would be doing that all day, every day,
Yeah.
So that's what I would have told me. Pick a sport. If you're going to do sport, pick a sport that actually pays, Like when I played rugby, there was no money in it. So I didn't carry on.
Yeah, that's true.
It was nothing. Otherwise, I would have said, okay, I'll take rugby a little bit serious. But I didn't take it very seriously. I just played for Natal schools, and that was it. And then basically stopped after that.
Your cancer, as you said in the book, it's incurable.
Yeah.
Here's a final question for you, a parting thought. Have you ever considered the possibility that you might be the first person to be cured?
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll happen, and again, my whole goal, always setting goals, my whole goal is to live long enough till they find a cure. So that's basically what I'm trying to do. And sometimes you get sort of a feeling that, I can beat this, but then suddenly it comes back. And it's happened so many times. It's like quite a tough thought,
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to give it my best shot to become the first person to get it cured, and they're getting, with AI, it's getting so fast that people are getting good. And the big thing is this CAR T stuff, but it costs 20 to 40 million. And some people have had success, but a lot of people haven't. So I would live long enough for them to get the CAR T to actually nearly make it curable. Yeah. So that's my goal.
Well, your best shot has worked out well for you so far in life, Oscar. So I hope that this is no different. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed your book and an extension of the book, chatting to you live in person. So thank you very much for your time.
No, thank you, Clint. It's what you're doing, and that's what you got to do is follow your passion, what you're doing in the gym, and then people must follow you as well, because they'll learn from you, and you learn from anybody, And that's the whole thing. You're never too old to learn. Even myself, I learn all the time. From the strangest people, you can learn. Funny enough, I was in the Sea of Galilee in Israel. I was sitting, and this woman had been paddling for 2 years, me 40 years, and she told me, "No, I sit like this in my surf ski." And I said, "Oh, why'd you do that?" He said, "Well, it's much more ladylike. It's this, that." I said, "I like that. I like what you're saying." And from that day on, I changed. Can you imagine?
So you changed your mind on that?
Yeah, well, I didn't change. She taught me what
Yes.
the right things, and that's why I say. And then she, as I say, the strangest person. She's never paddled, but she was a woman, and she said, "Listen, I want to keep my legs together, and I want to keep sideways." And then I worked it out, and now I teach that flat out. Exactly opposite what I thought was right. I learned from this old woman that had been paddling for 2 years.
Wonderful. What a way to finish. Thank you so much, Oscar.
Thank you, Ken.
Not so fast. It is such a cool feeling when I see that Spotify subscribers number increase on the weekly, when I see the number of people listening to the episodes going up, and it really makes a huge difference. Have you ever done something and you feel so good when you get rewarded by some positive feedback and you really feel like you're making a difference? That's what it means to me, and that's how I feel. And it goes a long way if you like the show, share it and subscribe it. Thank you humbly, and I'll see you next week.